I've spent a lot of time, a lot of places. Kind of a given, growing up in a traveling circus. But that's only part of the reason why living in Gotham City for the last year has been strange. The other part is that for almost a year, I've been filling in for Batman while Bruce Wayne was away. Which makes it so exciting that for the first time in a long time, I'm finally me again. This week on the Comic Book Report, Nightwing, Volume 1, Traps and Trapezes of the New 52. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic and I would like to welcome you to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. Today, I'll be covering Nightwing's debut in the New 52 in Nightwing, Volume 1, Traps and Trapezes. But first, some quick facts about today's collection. Nightwing, Traps and Trapezes was written by Kyle Higgins and penciled by Eddy Barrows. These issues were first published by DC Comics in 2011 as part of their New 52 initiative. This volume collects Nightwing issues 1 through 7 and comes in at 160 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the collection more or less in its entirety, as well as commenting on some plot points. You've been warned. Alright, and here's a look at today's collection itself. Nightwing, Volume 1. Got some great cover art here. This is the debut, of course, of Nightwing's red and black suit, as opposed to his more traditional blue and black suit. I always prefer the blue and black, but hey, something to be said for something new. This trade paperback is a standard size and is very uniform with all the other New 52 trade paperback collections, which I enjoy as a collector. Looking at the back cover now, we got some great pencil work here, an agonized looking Nightwing, and of course you can read its description, some accolades, and a little blurb about what this volume collects. And as we get ready to dive into the collection itself, I would just like to provide a little bit of context of how I came across this volume in my hands today. As I may have mentioned on my channel earlier, I started collecting comics in about 2010, 2011, so I was very primed and ready to dive into DC's New 52 when that was happening back in 2011. And as you can clearly see, Nightwing was no exception. If my memory isn't failing me, this is actually the first solo Nightwing collection I ever purchased. Since then, I've bought a little bit of Chuck Dixon's run, and of course I've read a lot of his stuff in the New Teen Titans, as well as seeing him a ton in Batman and other crossover work. But this again was my first real Nightwing book. I didn't know what to expect. And I think that this really set the stage for how much I started to just love the character of Dick Grayson, the titular Nightwing himself. As we continue to venture forth throughout this trade collection, you are treated, as I am, to these beautiful splash pages, the spreads, just some incredible artwork by Eddy Barrows. This is another name that I personally have not read a lot of his work, but I want to after reading this volume. He has some clean lines, some decent character models. I think that sometimes they can kind of look a little similar to others, but they're still striking and very emotive, which I always love. But I really feel like his artwork shines on those 2-page like splash pages. They're just beautiful scenes. I think this volume also does a really good job at a sense of place and space and scene. Again, some of those broad stroked pages, you get to see so much setting and environment, and you just feel like you're at these places, and I love it. And that was a nice segue to talk about what exactly is Nightwing, Traps and Trapezes? What is happening in this collection? Well, this takes place after Final Crisis, where Batman disappears for a time, and Nightwing actually takes on the Bat Cowl and the role of Batman for a time. Now that Bruce is back, we kick off the New 52, and Nightwing is back to being Nightwing again. And this collection predominantly had him back in Gotham City, not his Bloodhaven. And as he gets back into the city, he gets kind of called back to Haly's Circus, the circus he grew up in before his parents tragically died. And without going into too many plot spoilers, essentially he gets involved with the circus folk again as Dick Grayson, and he's actually even given the circus itself. All the while, there's a bit of a conspiracy, and he, as Dick Grayson, is being targeted for assassination. All of this leads to Dick Grayson, Nightwing, traveling with the Circus. So he leaves Gotham and goes around the country having all these different adventures, trying to solve the mystery. We get a rekindling of relationships with some of the other circus folk, as we also delve into his past and some of these memories. I definitely have not read all of the Nightwing that there is, but to my knowledge, this is one of the runs that goes the most into his backstory and creates some of these characters he grew up with, allegedly. And I feel like while it might be a cheap writing trick, it really enriches the storytelling and gives me more layers to Dick Grayson's past and this character. While the story in this volume is presented fairly linearly, there are a couple issues here that almost feel like these one-off adventures that Nightwing goes on as he still tries to uncover his own conspiracy he's embroiled in. For example, we have one issue when I think they're in Louisiana with the circus, and there's one of the circus members who has a deep past, and he has like an ex-girlfriend who's into voodoo and weird stuff, and Nightwing has to essentially save his life and stop this evil foe. And honestly, it has nothing to do with the overarching plot narrative, but it's such a cool one-shot in the midst of this that still ties into all the traveling circus narrative. We're also treated to a great issue where he has kind of a little side adventure with Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. That's a really fun one as well that really teases their relationship, some of their history, and it really just helps ground the character as we see more and more of these relationships. These were just fun inclusions in an otherwise very straightforward narrative, and these side adventures really gave this collection a bigger feeling to me. We get all of these adventures as they travel across the country. And honestly, with 7 issues, this is a pretty decent run for a trade paperback of this price and size. And as we reach the end of the collection, I have to say it wraps up fairly nicely, but really cliffhangs a bit for Volume 2. But with that, let's go ahead and give this collection a grade. For this fast-paced, high-flying, cross-country adventure, The Comic Book Report gives Nightwing, Traps and Trapezes of the New 52 a B. For my money, this is a wonderful jumping-on point for people who want to check out Nightwing. And the issues have a really strong sense of voice. From the diverse locales to the character drama, this was just such a fun starting point for the New 52. And while there's so much to love about the collection, I would say the ending of it is a little uneven. We get some conclusions, but there's so much left open. And there's a bit that I believe ties into what was going on at Batman during this time. But beautiful art, strong characters, and a recommend for me for any Nightwing or Batman or Bat Family fan out there. To me, this is probably in my top 10 of the New 52 titles. Go out and check out Nightwing, Traps and Trapezes. And that's going to do it for the Comic Book Report. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to my channel and check out some of our other videos. Thank you, and have a good day.